Krista's here. Hello. Where is that somber music coming from? Indeed. Hey, I'm live. Middle of making dinner, so I won't be able to type a lot. That's okay. That is okay. Let's do the thing, shall we? Transitions. Welcome, any and all who are out there in the world today, making their way in the world today. How's anybody doing? Anything okay? As my old physics teacher liked to ask, is anything okay? Well, for one thing, I just lost the chat that I was going to look at, so... Okay, there it is. We're back. Roasted potatoes and scrambled egg. Yum. Oh, I need to tweet about how live we are. That's what I forgot to do. That's what I didn't do. Let's navigate to twitter.com. Navigate to twitter.com. Come on down here. We are live right now. About to start digging into YR scales. Join us. All right. I think that concludes our business. Especially since everything seems to be visible. That needs to be visible on the stream. If you do not see my face, a logo, a bunch of questions, a keyboard, some chord symbols, and the chat, then something has gone terribly wrong. This is nice. B minor 711, it says. That E is the added 11. You see all of those things, Yahoo. Well, there's no yahoo.com. There's no Yahoo answers up there. Ooh-hoo-hoo. Today, tonight, the day that it is, the now that it is, I thought we might talk about scales. No. It's not for later. We're gonna put it in there. Krista asks, what? Because, like, the big questions, like, these aren't necessarily... I mean, I have ideas about how to answer these questions, but part of the point of doing this brand new big questions-ish format is just to, give myself an exploratory direction for the evening. But any questions that come up along the way are totally welcome diversions. They're not even diversions, they're like the point. Perfect. This is a totally valid question. because you are absolutely right to note that the D of a C major chord is the 2, if you will. There are a couple reasons for this. So, one reason to notate it this way is to delineate between a major 7th chord containing the 9, as in the case we hear here. This is C major 9, and by writing it as a 9, it is implied that the major 7th is present also. You notice without the major 7, we see this C major add 2. Another reason to possibly call this C major add 9 is to tell you something about the way it's being voiced, about the sonority itself. That the distance that's being covered is a 9th. The added note isn't an added 2nd in the middle of the triad. It's up above the triad. It's a 9th. I don't know why it thinks that the 13 is present. Oh, because it thinks it's a D minor 9, 11, 13 over C. That's an odd way of writing that. I guess because it's odd to have a... Yeah, see, there's the C9 at 11. Perfect. It's seeing this tritone and saying that's not part of the C chord. Hopefully that answered your question. This idea of distance actually takes us to one of the first things I wanted to mention about scales. Thank you for your question, Krista. I appreciate it. I was going to make this another bullet point, and everything's hidden and I can't see the bullet points that I want, and that's fine. Or maybe, can I just, no, I can't. Oh well. But in one of the books that I'm reading, Dmitry Tomochko, in his book, A Geometry of Music, which I am woefully behind in reading, but in the introduction, he talks about a scale as a means, as a measuring stick, as a means of measuring musical distance. Just in the way that that a map has a scale, perhaps. A scale tells you what all the musical distances are within the octave, or it gives you a yardstick to conceptualize musical distance. And what does that mean in a big way? If we take a A pentatonic scale, for example. Why does this say F sharp 6/9? Why doesn't that say F sharp pentatonic? There it is. That says C pentatonic. We'll do that. This is a system with 5 steps in it. This, by a technical standard, would be called a minor third. But in a pentatonic scale, this is simply the large step as opposed to the small step within this system. Small step, big step, small step, big step. So within this system, within the pentatonic scale that has been defined for us so far, this is measured as a step. It's a one step of the scale. It's a big step. If we are in C major instead, this same interval is measured differently because we're in a different scale. This is a leap now. We're leaping over a note in between. And you know how this phenomenon manifests is, I think, largely dependent on the sound world of whatever piece you're in, like what notes have and have not been introduced during a certain period of time. But this concept of the scale as a yardstick, or as a the actual notches on the ruler. Imagine me nodding enthusiastically and saying "aha" when you say the cool stuff. That would be very helpful, actually, is to have a little maybe a custom emote, perhaps, where it could pop off in the chat and be like, "Oh, aha." So I know that I've said something cool. Naturally, I haven't gotten much further into that book, but that was something that I definitely super duper highlighted. Actually, I have that PDF on the drive, so I could probably pull it up at some point and just reference it directly. So that's one thing that a scale does, or gives us musically. Scale as yardstick. It gives us a reference, a mental reference for musical distance. So that's something that a scale does. And again, if for anybody this sparks additional questions at any time, you know what to do. Oh, to complete the examination of this interval, so store all videos on your channel for up to 14 days. Since it's off 3 a.m. over here and you often can't make it, turn that option on. I thought it was on. But I will have to check that out if it is not actually. Good pointer. Because yeah, I do recognize that. I mean, even if we're on the East Coast of the U.S., right? I tend to start at 9 p.m. East Coast time, which is just not tenable for a lot of folks. So Evermore Human, I will absolutely take a looky-loo at making sure that happens. Rage drops. No, that's not it. We'll find it in a bit. Content, perhaps. We'll get there. I've got it pulled up on the other screen. I'll come back to it every now and then. Let's take a look. Oh, through the schedule tab. I actually didn't know that. I'll have to use that trick on some of the other streams that I watch. Examining this interval. So when we've established one scale, this feels like a step in the system, which creates a sense of disorientation, pleasurable disorientation perhaps, when you break the meaning of that step. Right, this chromatic scale, if you will, is a totally different way of measuring distance, and by inserting it into this framework, even one note in between one of these steps of our pentatonic scale it's interesting because it redefines this relationship, this defined distance relationship. Anyway, I'm not entirely sure where I was going with that, but it's something. What else does a scale actually do or give us musically? One thing that that I've been thinking about is and I don't recommend this as an all-encompassing framework, but jazz musicians talk about using scales over certain chords and certain chord changes. Yeah. And I could describe this as like what the function that a scale is serving here is couching one or more harmonies within one framework that makes sense. It's placing these two chords it's creating a system in which both of these chords are present. Now, this particular change, this is already the dominant of A flat minor. This change already exists in the scale of A flat harmonic minor. And you can see that quite easily. Let's see. If I play this whole thing, is it going to show up? Yeah, A flat harmonic minor. There you go. If you start on A flat, you take 2 steps on the scale, you take another 2 steps, you get your A flat minor, that's in the scale. A flat 7 if you add another 2 steps in there. But that's, roughly speaking, half of the scale. The scale also contains these other tones. And within these other tones, we can find, of course, the E flat 7 that we desire. So, when playing this groovy thing, this scale is a large scale. It's a larger structure that contains within it both of these chords and helps unite them. Krista has a great question, once again, which does not have an easy answer. Why do different scales make us think about different things or have different emotions? It's a fantastic question, and probably a branch of theory all its own. I want to keep drilling into a scale can create an environment for changing harmonies to live in. So if we wanted to change from E minor to something seemingly more distant, like D flat major, for example. Is there a scalar environment that connects these two harmonies? I think the simplest way to do this, and this is getting into big question number 3, how are scales built and how can we construct our own? This is a fine example of that, I think. If we superimpose these triads on top of each other, because we want to create a scalar environment that will tie these things up in the same sound world, right? We can superimpose them on top of each other. So we take our E minor triad and we just put our D flat triad in there also. And this is something like a scale. Let me see if we're going to build this out in a second, but let me actually use it over these chords for a second. So now we've just by using only the sets of tones that already exist in these two triads, we've created a sound environment to put melodies in that makes them part of the same world. It glues them together in an interesting way. We can take this one step further, that'll be funny in a moment, by saying, okay, this is so close to filling the octave completely. We just have a couple skips. We've got a couple different types of step in here. We've got a whole step here. We've got a minor third here, a half step here, a whole step here, a half step here, another minor third down here. There's absolutely something to be said for taking this as a yardstick, for example, and saying, okay, this scale has 3 types of step in it. Like, let's think about that. Let's explore what that means. But another thing we can do is fill in these leaps so that the scale is of a type that only contains the 2 kinds of steps that we're most familiar with, whole steps and half steps, that our ears are most familiar with, I should say. So we could fill in these thirds with other tones. And this is dangerously close to an existing scale. In fact, it seems like we've found a flat harmonic minor again. Yeah, we have. On accident, found a flat harmonic minor again, with this added F natural in it. F natural because it comes from this D flat chord we wanted the scale to to function with, to lead us toward. All right, so now we've got, these other notes in here, as well as all the chord tones of E minor, all the chord tones of D flat major. Okay. Now this that we made is already close to that existing scale, A flat harmonic minor, that we mentioned, because we filled in the leaps. Remember our chord tones, plus our chord tones. Is one part of it, and then we filled in these leaps with a note. But the fun thing about minor thirds is that there are two ways to fill them in. We could fill them in this way, but we could also fill them in this way. And you'll notice that we had two of these thirds in our scale that we reached just by combining chord tones. So, class, if this third has two options for filling it in, and this third has two options for filling it in, how many different scales can we make just by filling them in different ways? I should try and keep playing in the thing that we're creating. Krista, did you hear the question? All right, the question is, so our first step, we took our two chords that we wanted to create a changing environment for, create a unifying environment for. We just superimposed these two triads on top of each other, and we got a 6-tone scale. This has, we wanted to fill in all the leaps of the scale, if you will, so that instead of 3 different types of step, we had 2 different types of step in it. The 2 leaps are here and here. This is a third, and this is a third, that we can fill in each of them 2 different ways. We can fill in this third like this, or we can fill it in like this. Same up here, we can fill in a third this way, or we can fill in the third this way. So, if we have two options for each of these 2/3, how many resulting scales can we make using just that technique? It's a math question, Krista, which is probably why your brain blocked it out immediately. 5. Why 5? Because 5 is a good answer if you're thinking what I'm thinking. But I was also thinking of a different number. Sneaking maths into your music stream. Look out. Maths in my music stream? It's more likely than you think. I'm playing other shit again. I need to... Nope, I did it again. I was only thinking of 4. You might have been going beyond the constraints of this particular exercise. So if this went down here, you were counting the original scale exactly. That's where I was getting 5 from, which I was thinking was a great answer for that reason. You could choose not to fill in the thirds at all, which is 1. If you're choosing to fill in both of these thirds, actually, was my original question, but I suppose you could decide to only fill in 1, right? So you could have a scale like this, keeping one of the thirds in here. That was my bad for the question. I was implying that you would fill in both thirds. But yeah, this is 1. If you fill in the third another way, and then don't do the other one, we get this one. Then we could ignore this third and start filling in this third up here, so we get... That's interesting. And we could also fill it in the other way. It is like a Punnett square. Yeah, what I was originally thinking was just the fill in both A-B testing, right? Where we can make, if we call using the lower, we have a lower fill and a higher fill, let's say. Let's call the lower fill A and the higher fill B. We take the, our original 2-triad version. We could fill in AA. We could fill in BA. We could fill in AB. Or we could fill in BB. I'm kind of interested. I'm interested in both AB and BA. But the point of doing this exercise of filling in the leaps was to create an environment of all steps, right? But we also, according to our earlier interpretation of thinking of the scale as a yardstick, reducing one type of scale that had 3 different sizes of step in it to a type of scale that only has 2 different sizes of step in it, which is more melodically familiar to the Western ear. Even our pentatonic had larger steps, but still only 2 types of step in it. Whole steps and big steps, if you will, minor thirds. Okay, so one way of constructing our own scales, for sure, is let's see, creating environment, superimpose desired harmonies, use scale, fill in leaps if you wish. Fill in, we'll put this in quotes. Create scale of 2 step types instead of 3 step types. I guess the natural question that arises from that, and Temperament, please feel free to jump in with your own questions at any time. That's part of the point of my little Word doc format over here is to explicitly encourage them. What this definition makes me ask myself is, well, first of all, I guess what are types of scales with only one kind of step, and then we've demonstrated 3. What are some types of scales that have 4 different types of step in them? Is that possible? How does that look? How does that sound? The 4, I don't know the answer to yet, but I do know the answer to scales with only one type of step in it, or one size of step in them, if you will. Does anybody actually know a scale with only one size or one kind of step in it? I can think of 2. Temperament with chromatic. Chromatic is absolutely one of them. It's a scale of all half steps. Oops, all half steps. And for now, we're thinking of scales as filling in the octave, but we'll get beyond that in a moment. So yeah, this is absolutely a type of scale that only has half steps in it. All whole steps is another one. It's called the whole tone scale, Krista. It's one of those things that actually has a name that tells you exactly what it is. It's just what it says on the tin. Now, the Western music, Western equal-tempered music, uses 12 tones. There's only one chromatic scale that uses all 12. How many whole tone scales are there? This is a whole tone scale. It has 6 notes in it. Exactly, the return from dream sequence, or they enter into dream sequence, for sure. I am trying to make you do math again, Krista. How did you know? But it's also not necessarily math as much as taking a logical leap. If we only have 12 tones to work with, again in Western equal-tempered music, and we've used 6 of them in this whole tone scale, where are the other 6? Where did they go? So you can make 2. Precisely. There are 2, and only 2, whole tone scales in Western equal-tempered music. There's one that uses these 6, and there's one that uses all the other 6. I'm going to make another note up here about one of the other things that a scale gives us. Just going to put that up there. Scales contain harmonic possibilities. What do I mean by this? Remember up front, I talked about A-flat harmonic minor containing both A-flat minor and the E-flat dominant 7, and uniting the 2 harmonies in that way. Even this, let's make our A-B weird scale, patent pending. What known harmonies exist within this set of tones? There are a lot. We've got B-flat dominant 7 exists in this scale. If we number our tones, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, this happens to have 8. We'll get to what are officially called octatonic scales in a bit. But this chord exists in the weird-ass scale that we made up, using the 2, the 4, the 6, and the 7 of this weird thing. But this chord is in there. Which means in the harmonic world that we've created, right, we based it on these 2 triads, but now we know that this other thing lives in there somewhere. And we can incorporate this into our harmonic worlds. We can incorporate this into our improvisation using this new scale. Well, I also discovered that E major lives in this scale, because we do have a G sharp available to us. Can anybody see another chord somewhere in here? And I recognize that this is probably not something that you have a lot or any practice doing necessarily, but can you spot any familiar chords in this thing that we made? There's absolutely a few. There's more than a few. There's probably quite a number in there. E major, we discovered, absolutely is in there. Temperament, can you think of any? D flat major, because that's one of the triads that we built this thing on in the first place. D flat major is absolutely in there. How about this one? E minor, of course, because that is one of the triads that we built the thing on. We got a G minor in here. G minor 6 or a E half diminished. E minor 7 flat 5 is in here because we have the G minor plus an E natural. Feel free to stop or slow me down at any time if I'm ever going a little quickly or glossing over something you want to examine more closely. We're here to really zoom in. I saw an F minor in here. No, I didn't actually. Sorry, because we don't have a C natch. I mean, we have an F diminished, right? Which is part of D flat 7. We've got a D flat in here for sure. We have the fully diminished. Let's see. I mean, because the D flat is in here, we could say that we have the D flat 7 flat 9, although that's not particularly interesting. C sharp minor 7 is in here. That's quite nice. Of course, that's E major plus something else. E dominant 7 is in here because we have a D, and so we might we don't have to make this an exhaustive analysis, but we've created a sound environment that all of these well-known harmonies call their home, and so from a compositional perspective, we can extract familiar monuments from an entirely new sound world in this way. Although, as a composer, you may be interested in avoiding that completely. You may want to look exclusively at harmonies like this, for example, or finding some strange. None of these are all that strange, to be frank. This is nice. Relationships that are unique to the sound environment we've created. More scales with only, so we've done a scale that is only half steps. We've done a scale that is only whole steps. These are all one trick ponies, if you will, one step scales. Can you make a scale of only minor thirds? Now this is where it's getting a little tricky. Because this is simply a fully diminished arpeggio, one might say. This is just a chord. We don't necessarily think of this as a scale of 4 equal steps in its own right. But it sort of is. We call this a chord because it lives in other scale environments. But we've also arrived at it by thinking in terms of a uniform scale of a step of a certain size. I won't make you do the math this time. There are 3 diminished chords. Again, if you remember, we've got 12 notes we're working with. This is equally dividing the octave with these 4. This is equally dividing it with another set of 4. And this is equally dividing it with another set of 4. This equal division property does sort of lead very naturally to that whole, oh, hello. Remember when I was talking about, dominance having an extended family? This symmetrical property, equality property of these diminished chords. Chopin has thoughts. Let him speak. Chopin, do you have thoughts? Do you have something to say to the class? Okay. There it is. This isn't a class. You're not a class. Unless you want to be a class. I don't know. I don't know what this is. This property of symmetry gives rise to all these other interesting properties of this dominant structure having a sibling, which is another dominant, a minor third away from it, and it has another sibling, a minor third away from that, and it has another sibling, a minor third away from it. And we did this a couple weeks ago. We combined these sets of dominants together into scales, right? We said, okay, if this C dominant is related to E flat dominant and can take us to the same place in an interesting way, then we do have a scale created by superimposing these two, just like we did earlier tonight. Let's see, and how does it work? Nope. Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of extra tones in it. We did this filling in the leaps for this thing a couple weeks ago as well. I mean, this is already interesting. We're getting out of hand. Okay, so these are all scales with only one type of step. Let's fill in some notes here. So we've discovered scales with one type of step, chromatic, whole tone. scales with two types of step. Regular scales, if you will. They contain half steps and whole steps. And remember, we also had pentatonic in here, which contained two types of steps, but there were different sizes of step. Right? Whole steps and minor thirds. Okay, so having this thought a while back is what led me toward a nonotonic scale, a 9-tone scale of my own conception, which I find interesting for reasons. It's because I noticed this shared property of our, quote-unquote standard scale of whole steps and half steps, and the pentatonic scale having whole tones and minor thirds. These are both scales with two types of step in them, and what I decided to do was shrink all the steps of the pentatonic scale by 1 unit, by 1 half step, if you will. So turning all the whole steps into half steps, turning all the minor thirds into whole steps. We're just shrinking all these intervals by 1. So in C, what do we get? Instead of a whole step, I'll have this up here for first. Instead of a whole step, we have a half. Okay. Then instead of a whole, we have a half. Then we have a third, which becomes a whole step. Then we have this step, which becomes a half. So this is a shrunken pentatonic scale, if you will. In order to fill out the rest of the octave, I decided let's keep going. So next in the sequence, this third becomes a whole step. This becomes a half step. This becomes a half step. Let's see, where was I? This is C. Another leap takes us to a whole step. And then we've made it back to C. So 2 octaves of this pentatonic scale. We've shrunk all of the interval sizes down by a half step, and what results is this. A 9-tone scale that fills the octave. Which I think is really interesting. Not least rhythmically. Scales, we have so many 4s in working with scales, and that lends itself very well to divisions of the beat into 4. But because the diatonic scale is 7 tones, it doesn't let you land evenly. You have to keep going. right? You're never landing on home base. If you wanted to land on home base, you'd have to use 7 beats, or seven pulses to the beat, or 7 dividing the beat into 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Which is fun and cool and great, but is also kind of odd. What about a Mobius strip? There's no end or beginning. That's true, but I'm also not sure what you're saying. So from a rhythmic perspective, a 9-tone scale lends itself naturally to dividing in 3s, which we really like threes, right? So you can go okay. We've done this strange thing. It sounds mischievous. Yeah, it's speaking of mischievous, Chopin is making friends with the webcam, and I want to make sure that he doesn't try to eat the webcam cord again. Because that's how the last one died. Special guest star. Little scamper. Mwah. How you doing, buddy? Mwah. You want to give a nice purr? Or do you want to run away? Okay. You can run away. That's fine. Please respect your local AV technician. Technician would be putting very charitably what he did to the cord of the last webcam. Yes, this does have a mischievous quality to it. It's something, but this particular scale isn't the one that I find really exciting. Or remember how I was talking about different ways of filling in the lead before? Because let's be honest, like, this is fun, but as demonstrated, it's basically C major with a little bit on top of it. I'm really interested personally in I'm super interested actually in the outlining of minor thirds melodically. I thought to make this a little less C majory, we could change this D to a D sharp. So now, and what we have here is what one might call, I mean, I called this it's like a C flat 6 split 2 is sort of what I called it. Music theory, by the way, is grammar. It describes the things that we are doing. It is not laws drop down from on high. So we can invent terms like split 2 to describe what's happening. I say split 2 because the 2 of C major, the D, has been split into a D flat and a D sharp, essentially. Right? It's being split outward and created these two tones in its place. What is so fucking awesome about this scale is not something which is easily apparent. But I started taking this step pattern and putting it different places on the keyboard. So this is the version with C as home, with C sharp as home. You've got this split 2 thing going to the major third. And otherwise it's major with the flat 6 inserted. So the flat 6 is this A. There we are. Okay. Again, cool sound. D. Right, it's D major, it's got a flat 6 in it, and we split the 2. We've split the 2, so it's got this. This, by the way, melodically, is why I raised that tone in the first place, is so I could do this. Okay, D major, flat 6. So this has that E flat minor. Okay, cool. In E flat, we split the 2. And then it's just major with the flat 6 in it, regular 6. Okay, now, pay attention. Heads up, here's where it gets incredible. When we get here to E, E major, flat 6, split the 2. Oh, sorry. There it is. Major. Flat 6, major 6, major 7. There it is. So. This set of tones is the same set of tones as the exact same flat 6 split 2 scale starting on C. This same exact set of tones is also the flat 6 split 2 scale on E. And it is also the flat 6 split 2 scale built another major third on top of that on A flat. So this scale is some cool-ass melodic thing that exists simultaneously as itself in 3 different key areas and 3 different tone worlds. Which, if that's not one of the coolest things that you've heard this week, I don't know why you're here. That property gets me so dang excited about the possibilities in this thing. Because we know it also gives us a natural way of knowing what harmonies exist in it. We know that C major 7 exists in the scale. Oops. Come on. There it is. There it is. Because we have this major third symmetry property, we can extrapolate that E major 7 is also present in this scale. Which in fact it is. We can extrapolate also that A flat major must be a part of this scale. Because, and these are all the, I don't know what to call them, concurrent roots of this shape. So not only is that awesome in its own right, but this also gives us a more intuitive means of finding harmonies in this scale than brute force, because we know if we find something thinking of C as home, that it must also be true transposed when you're thinking of E as home or of G sharp as home. The other thing we might conclude from this is that, okay, this is the C, E, G sharp nonatonic, I'll just call it that from now on, It's my scale. It's got 9 tones in it. It's a non-tonic scale. This is the C-E-G based non-tonic. This is using 3 out of the 12 tones. This is a 3-tone relationship. So you might conclude that there are 4 of these scales, 4 of these tone sets in total. One that uses this 3, one with this 3 as home, one with this 3 as home, and one with this 3 as home. Returning to what we were talking about earlier, right? These are scales of a single step size, in this case the major third, which we didn't get to before. An augmented triad, if you will. So there exists in the 12-tone system 4 of these non-tonic sets, which have this wonderful, trisymmetric property to them, and of course have lots of rich harmonies inside them. What else do we have in here? A flat major 7 is in here, obviously. C minor with a major 7 on top is in here. This wonderful C minor 6 chord is in there. Gotta remember this foot too. From which we can extrapolate that E minor 6 and a flat minor 6 also must exist in this tone set. Good. And a flat minor 6. Yum. Minor 6 chord is the same as a minor 7 flat 5, by the way. Fun life hack. Try using it in an email today. Oh, that sound though. And that's not in the scale anymore because I've used a D natural. I certainly have not explored all of the possibilities of this tone organization by any means. It's just been one of those back of the mind things for months and months. One thing that I'm that I think about it is like the immediate thing that I started to think about is modulation. So like I just did here. This D doesn't exist in the tone set that we were using, right? It is explicitly omitted from this C, E, G sharp split 2 framework. There may be... I have no idea if this is true. I think it's true. Because so our C version does have D flat major 7 in it, right? So and that means it also has all of the major 7s above the co-roots of this scale. Does that make sense? Anybody following me? If it's based on C and it has D flat major 7 in it, then it must also have the major 7 a half step above E. And it must also contain the major 7 a half step above A flat, because these are the points around which it is symmetric. Half step above A flat is A major 7. So, when I played this before, this A flat major 7 with a D natural in it, it is possible that we have modulated to another non-atonic using the exact same rules that contains both this major 7 and a D natural. And we will look for it as the non-atonic starting a half step below this major 7 that we found, because we've just discovered that other major 7s exist in this system beyond the ones on what I'm calling the co-roots, which is a bad term for them. I am open to suggestions on a better name. Homeboys. That's not terrible. So if we explore this, it'll be the G, and of course it is. Of course this harmony exists in the G, B, E flat non-atonic, because it's just a fifth above G, and we know that the non-atonic is a major scale, which obviously has the fifth in it, with the flat 6 added in, and then the split 2. So this harmony is absolutely fair game in the system that we've developed using just transposing our scale over here. Turbine says it didn't make Nova go off, which I appreciate, but I'd also like everybody to be along for the trip if possible. So we know that this exists in here. We know that that exists in there. I mean, the next scale tone to try and build a chord on would be this one. Would be the E flat. The the first third that we get is this. No, that's not in. That's not in it. It's a major third. We don't have a B flat available to us. We have this C natural, of course. Okay. So, this dominant 7 flat 5 chord, E flat dominant 7 flat 5, hello Chopin, exists. Your stream froze. I say I still appear to be broadcasting. Temperament, am I still good for you? Okay, good. This dominant 7th flat 5 chord exists in our scale, and we know that it lives a minor third away from one of our homeboys, or a half step below one of our homeboys, because we know that it's symmetrical with this friend. So we can look for this chord in two other places. We know for sure. A half step below C, so we know that E dominant 7 flat 5 exists. Wild. By the way, Terpamai and Krista, if you can hear this, the really cool thing about the dominant 7th flat 5 chord is it is two dominant 7 flat 5 chords at the same time, 4 roots a tritone apart. B7 flat 5 is B, D sharp, F natch, A, and F dominant 7 flat 5 is F, A, B natural instead of C, E flat. Dominant 7 flat 5 chord exists as itself in two different key areas at the same time. So in that way, really, you know, it's almost the mascot of our nonatonic, which has this property for, you know, three different home bases at the same time. And because we know that dominant 7 flat 5 is two of the same chord at once, then we know that B7 flat 5 and F7 flat 5 are both part of our nonatonic scale. Wait. Regular F7 is in it. But regular B7 isn't. Because we're avoiding the F sharp. Okay, so That's wild. God, okay. And this is this one is the dominant 7 flat 5 that also has a major 7 attached to it because it's the half step above a home base rule. We know that's in here. We know the dominant is in here. And the dominant 7 flat 5 is here. D7 flat 5 is here, which means that G7 flat 5 is here because they're the exact same tones. But what we don't have, of course, is G major 7 or G dominant 7th, because we don't have a D. I suppose one way of thinking about this scale is it's a chromatic scale. It's a fully chromatic scale that omits 3 tones, that omits one of the augmented triads. So that's defining the major 7th that we don't have in this case. It means we also don't have F sharp major 7. It means we also don't have B flat major 7 in this scale. In a similar way, right, we have this E7 flat 5, but not, crucially, E flat 7, because there's no B flat in this scale. What does that tell us? It means that we can't resolve from E... Well, hold on. Yeah, I mean, we can resolve to A flat major 7 just fine. That's one of our home bases. And we can resolve to plain old A flat minor. We just can't have A flat minor 7 because there's no F sharp in this scale. Since E flat dominant 7 flat 5 is simultaneously A dominant 7 flat 5. But this one explicitly cannot resolve to D major 7 because D and F sharp do not exist in our scale. Yeah, so we have this really interesting property where A dominant 7th is present, but it is only functional in the traditional sense as the tritone substitution for E flat 7 going to one of our home keys, A flat major. Which, of course, is a lovely key change, or a lovely resolution. Dance resolution, indeed. Nope, sorry, shit. The B flat doesn't exist in this. Does any of this get us closer to answering Krista's very valuable question? Why do different scales make us think about different things or have different emotions? And there may or may not be an agreed upon answer to this. One really, really important reason historically was that before equal temperament, half step, a whole step in one key area was not necessarily the same size as a whole step in another key area, because of the way the instrument was tuned theoretically. If D is a 9/8 ratio away from C, that means the C to D whole step is a 9/8, but it might, maybe as a consequence, the E flat to F whole step, because the note E flat was arrived at through, a different part of the lattice, the tuning lattice. This whole step might be a 10:9 ratio instead. What the important takeaway being, don't, have smoke coming out of your ears, that historically the different key areas had subtle but objectively present differences in the sizes of their intervallic structure, which gave them what was called their key colors. E flat major had an objectively different interval structure subtly than, for example, C major. And that, I would say, is a major factor in their emotional interpretation. Is that those relationships are different. That is still possible for string instruments and choirs. Choirs especially, I think, until they train it out of themselves, until they train themselves to sing in equal temperament instead, can harmonize justly. You know what? Maybe I'll take this as an opportunity. So, this isn't a tuning theory stream yet. I mean, this particular one isn't. It should be on another Theory Thursday, perhaps. But it is entirely possible, if not likely, that nobody here in the chat has heard a major chord, a just tuned major chord. Your entire life, including right now, I'm tuned down to A equals 432 hertz because I just like it. But this is still equal tempered, which means that this major third is wrong. It's a lie. The piano is a lie. All equal tempered music is a lie. This is not how things harmonize in nature. It's a human construction based on a desire to square a circle, actually. The Greeks said, whoa, cool, if you, the ratio of 3 to 2 produces this nice sound. Let's keep going. Let's make another 3 to 2. 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 Let's make another one, and another one, and another one, and another 3 to 2, and another 3 to 2, and here's another 3 to 2, and they said, perfect. This 3 to 2 should get us back where they started. And you know what happened is it was off. The circle of fifths is a spiral. By tuning in perfect fifths, nature's perfect fifth, the C, if you will, they didn't call it C, the C you're supposed to arrive at the end is different from the one you started from by a ratio of 256 over 243. That's called the Pythagorean comma. A comma is, just in tuning, especially, it's a small difference. And it's a bit smaller than an equal tempered half step, I believe. I'll have to double check that. In China, who discovered this also, their music was based on lithophones and tuned stones and gongs, which you can't transport very easily across long distances for your music. So they said, okay, we'll just keep going to about 60 fifths, and then we've got a spiral where no matter what your town's home gong, what tone that is, we can tune the other ones around it. Because Chinese music was interested in 5-tone scales, pentatonic scales. Ta-da. 5 fifths. In India, they said, oh shit, that 256 over 243 ratio, that sounds really neato. We're going to use that for melodic expression. But in the West, we said, that's wrong. And the history of tuning in Western music, Krista and Turbomai and anybody else out there, is stuffing that little difference different places until it all evens out at the end, until you can fake your way to, this tone equaling that one into tuning all your fifths. Equal temperament can also be called 12th comma mean tone temperament, I think, because the distance of that Pythagorean comma, perhaps the syntonic comma, one of the commas, don't worry about it, is split into 12, and that much was added to every single interval, so that you got a 2-to-1 octave at the end. So every interval on the piano keyboard is wrong, but they're all equally wrong, and by a small enough amount that we still hear it as functional. So we have a really functional tuning system that gives us a lot of harmonic freedom to travel, but at the expense of truth, in my opinion. At the expense of truth, and at the expense of the key coloring that I talked about, because now when everything is equalized, all of the half steps and whole steps, all of the intervals in any key area are exactly the same distance. So from a tuning perspective, C major and D flat major are kind of exactly the same now, whereas historically they had really, really different characters. Obviously they're different sets of tones, but when you think about it as, you know, the major scale, let's say, we talk about the major scale, being, say, a sequence of halves and whole steps. That's one way to think about it. The major scale can be started on any of the 12 notes, but tuning-wise, it's the major scale. It's the only one. This is why classical Indian musicians say of Western music, it's all the same raga. Because these subtle tuning differences are codified as shruti in such an important way in Indian classical music. But what I was gonna do is I was gonna see if I could play for everybody the first true major chord you've ever heard in your lives. This in school was such a powerful moment for me. Because it was like until my senior year in college, it took. I'd only ever heard the piano, if you will, Western equal temperament. I had never experienced a real major triad, and it really kind of blew my mind. I've got a program open here. I'm going to see if I can see what I can do here. Let's see, can I... Okay, first of all, let's see if I can make sound come out of this. Can y'all hear that? Okay, then we're on our way. If I can open 2 instances of this, that might be the best way to compare. And hopefully I can put equal temperament on one, and I can slap a true okay, both of these play, that's good. Trap a true major triad in the other, and we'll go back and forth, and it may shock you. Okay, what I want to do is put equal temperament. Okay. I'm going to create a 12-tone equal temperament scale by dividing the interval 2 to 1 with the octave. Good. Where is my keyboard? Oh, it's canceled. Okay. This is now well, did something odd. Hold on. There we go. Okay, now I've got equal temperament. Perfect. I mean, it's not. It's all a lie. And then over here in this other copy of Scala, I'm going to input a 3-2. Oh, come on. I just want to... I want to construct... I haven't used this in a million years. Otherwise, it would be so much faster. Ah, okay, good. I'm going to input some pitches. I'm going to input, I want a 1-1, and I want a 3-2, and I want a 5-4. And that's going to give us a perfect major triad. Scale it. You just give me a... Come on now. I hope you're sticking around, because this is going to be worth it. I promise. Oh yeah, now, well, first of all, you can hear the difference between 440 and 432. Right, my 432 is significantly lower, you could say, from a 440. But not by an entire equal tempered whole step. By about 32 cents. A cent is a 1/100th of a half step. Cent like century. Okay, I know the scale is not monotonic ascending. I don't need it to be monotonic ascending is the thing. Ah, perfect. Okay, yes. Remove that, and we're going to add 2-1 as well. Okay, now we have an ascending scale over here. Brilliant. Okay, guys, gals, NB pals. So what I've created is equal temperament on one side and a true major triad on the other side, both in 440. Okay, I'm going to select a chord. Maybe. I just want a major. Because I really want to be able to just go right back and forth. Oh, see, I have the thing is I have like not 10 to 15 minor triad. I just want a regular dang. Now this, I think all these chords are taken from the harmonic series of the scale that we've constructed. I think we just have to. Okay, folks. Sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit. Are you all ready to hear a true major triad for the first time in your life? Chopin's ready. Can you hear that? Krista's so ready. Turbomai's ready. Okay. This is an equal-tempered major triad. We're going to let this play for a bit. Get it in your mind. This is the major triad that you know and love. Everybody happy with that? This is a true major triad. You can hear how much more stable it is. Listen to this fifth. Now listen to this equal-tempered fifth. That sounds really similar, actually. Okay, but you can hear the difference if... Yeah, the difference is a lot more subtle, and the fifths. This equal-tempered fifth, you can hear the difference. I'm playing the true fifth on top of it. A true 3-2 perfect fifth is bigger. Can you hear that? Equal-tempered fifth underneath it. This is a true major third. This is the ratio of 5 to 4. And also, when I talk about these ratios, these are... if you pluck a string of any length, it vibrates, first of all, along its entire length. It also vibrates in 2 phases of half its length, representing the ratio 2 to 1. It also vibrates in these 3 to 2 sections. It vibrates in 4 sections, it vibrates in 5, and so on and so on and so forth. When you... We're going to turn this true third off for a second. Hear it. We're going to go back to an equal-tempered third. My God! The equal-tempered major third is so high. It's so harsh. You hear this? Go back to the true third. Oh. Much lower, much more stable. Let's play the equal-tempered major third on top of it. The difference is very large. You can hear all the beating, all the activity in it. This major third is attacking you. Let's hear the minor third. This is an equal-tempered minor third. E to G. Here's the just minor third. so much smoother and simpler. Equal tempered. Now, when you listen to this, do you think that sounds true? Do you think that sounds in tune? I have to go back. To the real thing. It's enough to make you cry. Now that you know the truth. The piano is wrong. It's always been wrong. And now you can never go back. Temperament, I'm sorry to have cursed you with this knowledge. I'm also not sorry. It's been amazing to revisit this in earnest for the first time in a long time. Like, I've taken it as granted, you know, since I've learned this, and I've done a lot of microtonal work since then, that there's the truth and then there's the piano. But hearing them next to each other again was genuinely really emotional for me. Yeah. Have a good bedtime, Temperament. And, you know, think about what we've done to ourselves. What we might be able to do instead. Yeah, I'm glad this is as noticeable and affecting for anybody here listening as it was for me in school. Because like being made to understand this so viscerally is I think it is transformative. I think it is a little bit life-changing. You may need to take a lot of time to train your ear to the point where you sense these differences, a lot. But that saying, like, people may forget what you said, but people will never forget the way you made them feel. This is like that. You might not remember what a real major triad sounds like in a mental sensorial sense, but I think you'll remember, perhaps forever, how hearing this made how hearing it actually felt, how it felt so different, how what we used to know felt so wrong in comparison. I guess that's a good note, if you will, on which to leave everybody. So, yeah, I'm a bit lost for words myself after doing that. You are welcome. Now that I know that I can get a couple copies of Scala to work properly, we may go on a more deliberate and advanced tuning journey in a future Theory Thursday. I attempted to a couple weeks back and just couldn't get any technology to play nice with each other. This program, Scala, is designed for you to be able to design your own tuning system, but then also generate scale files that virtual instruments such as this one that I'm playing can then be retuned in real time to those new systems. And if I work a little bit this weekend on getting technology to play nice, perhaps next Theory Thursday we will take a dive into what music could be and is for many people already, doing really cool microtonal work. But anyway, I think that's going to be it for the stream this evening. As usual, you know what? I might not play you out because I can hear it really viscerally now. I'm gonna play some different harmonies that aren't as obviously wrong. Have a lovely night, everyone. Meow.